Okay, first big kit of the year. We're going to do an Elven Garden house. It's kind of like a little dollhouse. And we're going to start with the little living room set. I got this one for Christmas, so I think it's time to start thinking spring and summer and flowers. Let's stop thinking about cold things, right? I think we're all done with that. So I think we're going to work on the Elven Garden. Looks fun. It's by, I'm going to mispronounce that, Qualyun. It's not a brand that I'm super familiar with, but, they're all kind of, in the end, work out to be about the same. We got the usual things in here, parts and pieces, nicely individually packed. Of course, our flat pack with all our laser cut parts, and then the paper. And this one does not come with glue. So I'm going to get out my good old Eileen's tacky glue. I use this on every one, and I just put it into a smaller container so it's easier to control. And then I also use, and this is just leftover from past kits, but it's a gel alcohol-based glue, kind of like a Gorilla Glue. And that's good for, plastics and metals and things like that. All right, we're going to do with step one, and we're going to make these itty bitty little jars. This is a small scale kit. It's not a real life or, a Mayberry Street scale. It's a little bit smaller. So just be warned, but very doable. To make these jars, you got to put the half circle upside down on the top, kind of to make the jar lid. And I tried it without, and then I remembered, oh yeah, double sticky tape on a little board. Why do I always forget to do that? So I did eventually switch over to that, because trying to juggle this around was crazy. There we go. Much, much easier. It's like having a third arm when you have this little... It's just a scrap piece of wood and two-sided tape. It's a lifesaver, believe me. And I got that from one of you guys' comments, so, whenever you see something that I could do better, I'll take it. We're all learning, right? And then we're going to cut this tissue paper and to little tiny squares. This is going to be the, if you ever see jars of jam, that kind of look. And once we got our little squares, I'm just going to glue each one to the top. I'm just going to center it up as best I can, and then what we're going to do is squish it down. But we'll glue it down first so that it doesn't go anywhere. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for us. Once that's holding a little bit, and if your glue isn't dry for the half bead, it will slide all over the place. So my best advice is let things dry. I get a little impatient and then it ends up being more of a struggle than it should have been. So just let things dry and then just squish it down a little bit. And then they want you to use the wire that is on the end of some of these flowers. I probably, to do this better, because first I just made little half circles from my wire and then tried to wrap it around. It was really difficult. I should have gone with my good old advice, keeping the wire long and then tie it around. Because doing this little teeny fiddly thing, it was tricky. So what I ended up, because it just didn't want to go all the way around without ruining the whole thing, is I kind of made it look like it was all the way around, and I'm going to put the bad side, what I say in quotes, to the back. They'll never know. There we go. That looks pretty good. Sometimes when you zoom in like this, it's really hard to convey how tiny these things are. I'll have to put like a quarter or something to show how small these are in scale. And we're going to make a little tiny planter. This is very easy, especially when you use your double sticky tape. The only drawback to double sticky tape sometime is it gathers every piece of cat hair, lint, and everything. So, but I get it in just a Scotch tape roll, and it's pretty reasonable priced. Just replace it every once in a while. It's not a super sticky double stick, if that makes sense. And this one, we're just going to use the little berries off the plant and then glue it to the top. And you're done. All right, we're going to make our first little box. I didn't look ahead, but I'm sure there's more of these. It's just fold it on the crease and make a box shape. I did get confused a little bit of where they wanted the folds to go because it kind of overlaps here and there. I had to take it apart a little bit and then re-glue it. And sometimes my glue is a little too good, and so it was hard to take apart. And I also always pre-crease. That's a life changer, believe me. Alright, scrolls. We're going to only make 2 rolls of newspapers, wallpapers. Not sure what these are supposed to be. But I just use my needle nose pliers and roll them up. And these 2 little guys will go into the box that's labeled as box. In case you didn't know it was a box. And we're just going to put it in like that. Alright, time for our first piece of furniture. These are nice and tight. If they're loose for you, if you're doing this one, by all means glue it. But for me, these were nice and tight. So I had no problem. Just stick them in the holes. Just follow the diagram. Easy enough. This kit, except for the scale, it's just slightly smaller, but it's a lot like the Roll Lifes. If you've done like the Becca's Baking Company, those things, that kind of furniture building. Very, very doable. It's kind of nice not having to balance and measure how far the shelf needs to go down. Just poke it together. The hard part is, if there is a hard part, is all the accessories. So that's a good trade-off. And they have these little doors that go into the holes. I just kind of half build it, and then you So you had to put in the top and then put in the bottom. It's a little tricky. There we go. Almost there. Now we gotta decorate this, so it's got a little topper here. Just put it towards the front. And they want you to take 2 beads off of this strand of gold beads, and those are gonna be your door handles. Before I put those on, I'm gonna put the lace on, and you just cut a piece that fits in on the shelf in the middle there, and just glue it down. And then to make it kind of hang over, you'll have to put some glue in the front and then hold it down so it creases down. That's the only problem with a smaller scale than a regular tablecloth, which is automatically due to the weight of the cloth, it would flap over the edge. Since it's lighter and smaller, you kind of have to force it with glue. All right, let's put everything on the shelf. And the last thing is our little box with newspapers in it, and that just goes on the bottom shelf there. And the doors will stay open with the box. Ta-da! Next up, we're gonna build a fireplace. So we're just gonna follow the directions, and the notch in the hole, right? And I try to do it because I know the fireplace is going to get covered with papers eventually. The lettering, that can go on the outside. That's fine. And then I know that this top is going to get covered. But normally I will try to put those, because they mark each piece, which is great, so I don't lose it. Try to make it so it's kind of hidden. If this wasn't covered with stuff, I would have flipped it over. And speaking of, we're going to wallpaper this whole front and sides. Now we have to make some logs to go in our fireplace, and we're going to make 8 of these. They're pretty easy. So just cut your crepe paper. You're going to make sure it goes long ways so that you got the illusion of tree bark. And then you're just going to wrap each piece. I just did it one long strip and then rolled it until it was covered, and then glued it and then cut it. And just kept going like that. All right, the first of our lights here. So we got this little LED, and we're just going to bend it at the end. These bend pretty nicely, and they usually hold the bend. And then you're just going to glue it right in the middle in the back there. Because what we're going to do is we're going to pile the logs around the light and try to hide it as much as we can. a little something like that. And I'm going to test it. If it's a little too bright, I might paint that little light orange just to give the fireplace illusion a little better. And we're going to do some stuff on top of the fireplace mantle here. So we're going to make a flower arrangement. Pretty easy. Just cut off the end of this and put it in the bead. Or the vase. The vase. Ta-da! And we're going to make plants to go into this little cup here. So we're going to cut these little, I guess they're kind of like bamboo shoots or something like that. But you're going to want, 3 or 4. I ended up fitting about 3 of them. It says 4, but it's whatever you feel like it looks good. And again, you're going to take the little berries off the end of this and glue it to the end of the little stalks. And once you get your little flowers stem thing, you're just going to put it right into your little cup. And there you go. Very cute. And we have this little picture frame. It says, Visions of Sugar Plums. Okay. It's cute. It's pretty. And you're going to make the little backing so that it stands up. So just cut your wire to size. It's the thicker coppery wire. And you're going to make it one big U. And then bend the feet. This wire is very pliable. It's very soft. So super easy to do with your fingers. Stick your picture to the front, and I'm covering up the lettering on purpose. There we go. And then you're going to put your little stand on the back. Alright, we're cruising along. This one's not too bad. Just lots and lots of little parts and pieces. It's always hard when to just start, right? But once you get going, then it's really hard to stop. This is going to have a little piece of lace over the top. And then it's got this little newspaper dealy bob, and I'm just going to glue it right on top and then bend it down with my fingers and glue it down. Like it's been there forever and ever. Alright, let's put this stuff on top. I don't know why, but the little visions of sugar plums, and then all of a sudden a skull is it's a little ominous, isn't it? Visions of sugar plums, skull, and then our lantern. We won't question our little elves. thought I'd throw this one in here because, you know, I know we're going to end up using these all the way throughout, all the parts and pieces. So we got to make 21 little books, so why not? Now that we have lots of energy to do this. And it's just the little tile wood pieces, and you're going to wrap it with all the little book jackets. Just start at one end and then glue it to the other, and you're going to do 21. Alright, we're going to make a couple little chairs. I always go through the book and kind of try to decide how I'm going to break this up so that it's, you know, not 30 million hours long for you guys. Would you watch something that long? I doubt it. So I break it into, you know, bite-sized chunks, and I thought I would just do all the living room stuff. And then next we'll do all the kitchen, all the bedroom, that kind of thing. So this will be a multi-part little project. And all I'm going to do is, instead of, this is how I do it every single time, instead of cutting out each individual piece of material, and they do give you patterns to cut out if you like to do it that way, I just glue it directly to the material, and I'm making sure I'm gluing it to the dull side, the shiny fuzzy side, the side that's you want to show to the world. You want it on the underside there, so don't glue it to that. Unless you want it dull, that's fine. And also, make sure if you do it this way, make sure you have plenty of room all the way around each piece, because we need to wrap the edges. And then once I got these cut down to little bite-sized pieces, I'm just going to glue all the way around the edge, and then I'm going to squish it up with my fingers. And I ended up using my tiny little clothespins to pin this down a little bit while it dried. That's what it looks like once we got all our pieces all done. And then I'm going to take my pins off, and then I'm going to trim it down and glue where it picks up, where you need to, if you need to fix it a little bit. But there we go. I left it long on purpose so that I have space to pin it down and then trim it, because it's super easy to just trim it. Use the wood as your guide. Now we got all our pieces glued and trimmed. Now we gotta put material on the other side. And I know the very bottom of the chairs, it doesn't say to put material on it, but we have plenty of it, so why not? So I'm gonna just glue every single one down. Just the same way we did the first time, but we don't need to leave space around, because it's just gonna cover just the bottom. Once it's nice and dry, just trim them down and you got all of your pieces done. I'm doing both chairs at the same time. And now they want you to put this little trim on the edges of the back of the seat and the arms. They said to do it once it's all glued together. I decided to do it before. I think you could have gone either way. Just as easy. Alright, we got all our parts and pieces. Let's make a chair. Or two. And the last thing we need is little legs. I did decide to do those very last because I know if those were on there, they would have fell off 1,000 times as I was building this. So just put the little rivets on the bottom and your chairs are done. Fresh out of the store. Now we get to decorate them. So each chair has a little pillow. One has this pink one, and just make sure, just like the other chairs, make sure the pattern side of your material is down so that it's facing out. You want the pretty side out, right? Measure it to size, and then we're going to make a little tube. And we also need a gingham one. So might as well do that too. It's the same exact process, just different material. And the thing does say make 3 of each. Just for what I'm showing you now, I'm just showing you the 1 and 1, because that's all we need for this particular project. So you're going to make a little tube, and then you're going to glue the bottom. And I did clamp it with my little clothespins. And those clothespins are just from the dollar store. I just get a bag of them. They get broken, they get glued together, and it's not a big deal. I'll just get another bag of them. But they're very, very useful. We're doing the same thing, but just with the gingham one, the red. And then we're just going to stuff it with however much you can jam in there without it bursting open. This is, because it's so slippery, it's really hard to get in there sometimes. Just use the back end of your pliers or tweezers. It did take me a little while. And then once you get it in there, you just seal it shut with some glue and some clamps. And we do the same thing with the other one. And once you get your glue to dry and staying shut, and I just take it off and then I just trim it down to make it look pretty. Somehow mine ended up a lot bigger than I think they wanted you to, but they look like little raviolis. There you go. Alright, one chair has a blanket, so we're just going to cut that to size here. And all the sizes is in millimeters. Easy enough. It's just the other side of the ruler, right? Alright, and then we're just going to glue this onto the chair. Just like I said, because it's small, it doesn't have the weight of a real life thing. So we have to make the illusion that it's draped over the arm there. And we had to glue it down in kind of a little wrinkly fashion, like we just threw it on there. And this one gets a pillow. I did glue it on, but then I realized that I needed the little lace doily on the back, so I ended up taking it off. So this is what I mean. I almost forgot. We have to put a little, like Grandma's little lace doily on the back. So it does give you a pattern. It's kind of a long oval shape. And I just kind of cut it to size and then rounded off the edges. And you're just going to stick it down, and then I clamped it just so it'd stay down, because it's kind of a curve, so it's tricky to keep it on there. And this glue dries crystal clear, so no worries there. And you're going to do that to both chairs. And there we go. Now let's glue that little pillow back on. Just like nothing ever happened. And we got one chair done. And the other one gets the pink pillow. And now we got two chairs done. Nice big pillows. We like to be comfortable. Alright, we're going to make one more thing. There's a cute little table in our living room. It goes in between our chairs. So we're just going to make this table, so the table legs, it's just these two pieces. I put a dabble of glue in there. I probably didn't need to because it did fit kind of tight. And they're just crisscrossed together. And then there's a little notch in the top of the tabletop. And this fit really tight for me. It was tricky. I almost was worried that it wasn't going to fit in there, but it does eventually. If you had to, you could also use your little sanding emery board and just sand it down a little bit. There we go. That ain't going anywhere. It's in there. And now we need to make a tablecloth for it. So I did use the pattern. So I cut out the circle that they had for the pattern. It's really easy to figure out which one goes where because they actually put the print of what material you're going to be using on the pattern. So you can't get that too wrong. And you're just going to make a giant circle. Well, a big circle. To make the ruffle effect, what I did is I glued it to the top. First I centered it on there as best as I could. And then I'm going to put glue all the way around the edges and squish it up with all my fingers. You can't really use little clothespins for this because otherwise it'll glue to the bottom of the table and then you kind of lose that ruffle effect. So what I did is I held it in place and I held it there for a while. Just sat there with my hands full and just watched YouTube. This is just a zone out little project, right? And you might have to zhuzh it here and there and re-glue in a couple spots, but there you go. And there's a few things that go on this table, of course. No table is ever empty. And what we're going to do is make a little book. Now, the directions weren't super clear, but I am guessing that, because there's plenty of pages to use, and I'm sure this is not going to be the first book or the last book that we're going to make. So I put two together, so back to back like this. And then you just put another one for the inside. And then I just kind of lightly fold it in half and just kind of give each page a little curve. Kind of like, the old birds that you used to draw, as a kid. And then you're just going to glue the one into the other and let that dry. Once it dries, then you can kind of play with it to make it look more like an open book sitting on the table. And now we're going to make a teeny tiny little cup. I honestly thought this was going to be the hardest thing to do, and it ended up being super easy. I intimidated myself. So we're going to take this, the thicker copper wire again, and I'm going to use my needle nose pliers and use the curve on my pliers to make the handle, to just make a big U. And you just trim it down and glue it to the side. Wasn't too bad. And let it dry. Alright, now we get to make a little bowl of candy. They're kind of like those, what are they called? Ferrero Rocher, whatever they are. My mom loves them. And to make the candies, what you're going to do is cut little squares of this tin foil. I imagine if you lost this piece, or you could use regular old aluminum foil, and you're just going to wrap each of these beads so they look like little gold wrapped candies. And now we're going to stack this little gold crown looking thing, and we're going to put this flower looking bead on top. Easier said than done sometimes. I should have used my double stick tape board on this because it kept tipping over. It was really hard to center up. I ended up making it upside down so that the white flower was flipped over, and then just gluing the other one to the back end of it. That was the easiest for me. And then we just fill it up and leave one aside so that we can kind of leave that on the table like we were eating them. All right, let's put the stuff on the table. One last thing is I had a few of the... I noticed that I made a lot of extra logs and I was wondering what I had to do with them. So I peeked ahead in the book and it looks like there's a little pile of logs that you put next to the fireplace. So let's go ahead and plan ahead and glue these together into a little wood stack. All right, I think that's a good start. We made books, a whole stack of books that I'm sure we're gonna use all over the place. So put these in a safe spot. I have a little box on the side that I set all my parts and pieces so they don't get lost. And then we made chairs and pillows and a cute little table with lots of stuff on it. A shelf with jams and flowers and things. And a fireplace. Not bad. So next time around, I think we're going to go to the left on the little house and make the kitchen. So that'll be fun. So if you haven't already, click that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. Hit the like button so that I get into your recommended a little more often. I have lots of videos to watch. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.